Hello, collective. Hi. So here we are, or I guess, hello, my Capricorns. So here we are for today's video. We're going to be breaking down the Pluto, how do you say? Pluto's direction, let's just say, and how Pluto was spending a lot of time in retrograde and now it's out of retrograde. And we're seeing a lot of forward movement, let's just say, in terms of that energy in specific. Uh, Another thing as well, I wanted to take a quick second. Yeah, and all the positive change that we're experiencing through that. Now, when we look at this Pluto retrograde that we were experiencing, the biggest thing that was taking place, especially for you, Capricorn, was a revisitation of your self worth. So, how do you value yourself? How do you see yourself? And what is the truth tied around, let's say, your shortcomings when it comes to your self esteem, self worth? Yeah, a positive movement. Yeah, very stagnant. Yeah, and that was another thing that was going on because it was activating your second house. And this was also coinciding with a lot of other energies, and we're going to go into that. But now that Pluto's going direct, there's a lot of movement finally. So this was kind of slowing you down. So you had to revisit yourself. So you had to see yourself more clearly. So you had to break yourself down in order to build yourself up. I talked about this a lot in the healing circle throughout the month of September, that it was this kind of off the tail end of August, there was this feeling of Capricorn kind of taking a fall in terms of its self-esteem or self-confidence, and also could have taken a financial fall if it went that deep in terms of manifesting in the practical. But it was all about this feeling of not being able to move out of your own self. Then that energy shifted at the end of September, and then here we are in October, where confidence is been rebuilt. Good morning. Confidence is being rebuilt slowly but surely. So Capricorn's getting a restoration of self and a reawakening of self, like the wheel turning. But it's happening in this way where stagnancy can be the name of the game. How can you actually make the things happen that you want to happen? There could be shortcomings. You thought one thing was going to work, and in actuality, it wasn't working, and it's something standing in your way. There can be some doors closing that you thought could be opening. It's a lot of this kind of, again, confidence got restored at the end of September. October's been renewing that, but it's happening in a way that seems like it doesn't necessarily make the most sense. Let's just say, where can I actually find refuge? Where is the door actually open and I can smoothly move through it? Now, all of this has been there so that you can understand your sense of refinement. And like darkest before dawn, honestly, it's where have you been misaligned in terms of how you manifest? So, have you been creating, especially in the past when you felt like you had more movement, were you actually successful because of the right reasons? And what do I mean by the right reasons? What is the most authentic to you? What is the most in alignment to who you naturally are? Not when you're creating from a space that comes from, let's say, insecurity, or comes from outside perspective of how you should be doing something, but from creating from a space that is more authentic to your truth, because we're talking about SeaGoats going through a revival of self, but from a deep sense of self-worth, self-wealth, right? So your self-confidence has been going through a lot of change, and this is in alignment with your practical matters. So where do you create from a space that is more authentic to Venusian energy, which means understanding your self-worth, and through self-worth you can create more, you can expand more. You've had to face your insecurities, you've had to face your shortcomings pretty much, and it could have showed up, especially for a lot of you, with what was going on in your relationships and how you connect with people, how you're working with people, who you're working with, how do they make things happen for you. Yeah, exactly. It's like, who are you working with versus who you're not working with, and how can things happen? It's like you've had to really learn yourself through other people, even against your own will. And it can be, again, very frustrating, or it could have been very frustrating. Now, what's happening with Pluto going direct is this energy takes I guess gets off of you. The weight lifts off, and there's a direct channel to being able to get what it is that you want. Now, this is coming from the lessons that were learned when there was imbalance, when there was indifference, resistance, the things that were resisting you so that you could see yourself differently, so you could see situations differently, people differently. And it was all about this idea of self-worth, self-value, you know? And what you will do now, especially for those of you who are entrepreneurs, it's what will you do now that you have a better sense of self? How are you choosing to show up, right? You've gone through so much of a change, right? Some of you could have gone through a dip in order to change, in order to understand your truth in that way. Another thing as well, when it comes to this Pluto direct, you spent a lot of the time during the Pluto retrograde having to understand what you will do with your finances. How can you make more finances, more streams of income to live a more comfortable and a more aligned life, right? And again, comfort looks differently for everyone. So it doesn't necessarily look like, work-life balance or pulling back more hours. For some of you, it could be pulling in more hours. It could be, what is your sense of satisfaction? What's going on is Pluto wants to give you a sense of satisfaction. And satisfaction comes through success, right? How can you be successful through being more satisfied? How can you rework those things? And now we got the King of Cups, speaking of streams of income. And now that Pluto is going direct, it's seeing more movement. Let's just say, you don't have to learn those old lessons, at least at this point. In the first half of September, as well as October, because of what was going on with the Saturn retrograding back into Pisces, and this sitting next to the Pluto retrograde, this was bringing up old things that took place. So old things that took place in the past, over these past couple of years, around this topic. What projects have you been doing for the past couple of years? What have you been working on? Which contracts did you sign last year or the year before? Another thing during this time is you're really having to see people clearly. So if you signed a contract, let's say this time last year, or created a business partnership during the past couple of years where Saturn was in Pisces, you've had to really look at that clearly. You've had to look at people clearly, even beyond your comfort. Maybe this isn't the kind of person that you want to be working with. Maybe what worked for you before, the reality check comes in that this is no longer working, that you need to have more, you need to be with better people, you need to expand more, have a bigger clientele, different things like that. And obviously this is mostly a practical reading, but especially because we're talking about Pluto going direct, but to touch on love, this was a big time of you guys having to understand your self-worth through your relationships. So partners coming into your life that were testing your sense of self-worth and self-value through the resistance that they created, who they were, what they represented in the world. There was something about your love life and also your friendship life, let's just say, that was testing the barrier of, let's say, your previous boundaries, who you thought you were, the kind of personality that you developed that could have come from ego, that could have come from childhood, especially because we're looking at the Aries Chiron coming to its close. How can your new relationships test the boundaries of your self-esteem, self-worth, childhood dynamics? Are you in relationships with people that maybe your family of origin or what you thought to be your identity wouldn't think was working for you or wouldn't think makes sense for you? Really being in relationships that are breaking down and testing your limits when it comes to who it is that you think that you are based on how you've developed up until this point. But this is the space that has been asking you to really grow. So where you've been tested is where growth comes in. What will you do now with your newfound sense of self-worth? Realizing you deserve more, realizing you want better, standing up for yourself, being clear on your image, being clear on who it is that you are. And on a positive note, attracting in people and partners that really see your value and want to help you, let's say, get better with it or expand it. Let's just say that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because your self-wealth deserves more. It's like your wealth, your self-worth. It's like the divine is asking us to align with things that are true to our development. Meaning it might look good on paper in the moment, or if in love, the person might look good on paper in the moment, but in reality, what is better for us is it puts us in a space of a deeper sense of self-worth, a deeper sense of self-wealth. And it can mean that we lose things that we think we need in the moment, but in reality, wealthiness is also about comfort. And that's the thing about the second house, and Pluto being in your second house, in the Venusian house, the Venus house, the Taurean house, right? It's self-wealth also means comfort. It means the finer things in life, not just because of the financial satisfaction, but because of how it makes you feel, because it makes you feel the most at ease and the most comfortable in yourself and in your own skin and in your own body. It's sensuality, right? The opposite of sexuality, because sensuality is a deep sense of comfort, right? Something that moves with ease and grace. Venus creates with ease and grace, not restriction, not hyper, or I guess hypersexuality, hyper things that are too excessive or too intense. It's being able to have that balance because it's coming from a deep sense of comfort. And comfort is what true wealth is. That's what it's all about, right? It's finances and wealth are not the same. Richness and wealth is not the same. Wealth is, it's when it feels good on a deep level. And again, this goes to love, right? Wealthy in love, not just someone that looks good on paper for what you think, especially because we were talking about the Aries Chiron, from what childhood development or the family of origin or wherever you live or whatever it may be. Whatever it may be, might look like. It's actually in this space that says something different. It says that wealth looks like in love a person that you can feel very comfortable with, a life that is authentically based on love. And for you, SeaGoat, it's breaking down your idea of status. And you've been tasked to break down your idea of status in a multitude of ways, especially over the summer where all of these things were happening with Aries. I hope you guys are following. I know I'm moving quite quickly, but where all of these things went on with Aries, and Aries was forcing you to get courageous about your identity, get courageous about patterns that have been playing out since you were a child, right? Fourth house, especially for those of you who carry the mother wound, wounds with family, what your idea of culture is, what your idea of home is, having to really push past your limits and step out on courage when it comes to understanding who it is that you really are and seeing yourself clearly from a space of more value, from a space that is more Venus, more Venusian, right? So we're just going to pull for what it is that we need to know during this time. And again, I welcome you guys to the Healing Circle. This is a Healing Circle video. If you would like to join the Healing Circle, that link can be found in this bio. The Healing Circle, I have live videos 3 times a week. I will be having one tomorrow, the next day, and the day after that. So when I'm not here on the main channel, I'm in the Healing Circle 3 times a week, and we go deep like the way we are doing now. So let's figure out what it is that we need. What's the clear advice? Here's your advice here, SeaGoat. What is it that you need to be doing, thinking, feeling? Okay. Oh, wow. So for your advice, we've got the 3 of Swords here. Okay, so I'm like I said, I'm mostly focused on the practical. Hi, good morning. I'm mostly focused on the practical here. But of course, this also has to do with love. So practicality and love as well. It all comes together. The thing is, I only do bookings Tuesday through Thursday. But if you book today, I can see you tomorrow. I can jump on the email and give you the link. Happy Monday. The booking link is found in the bio as well. And there are spaces for tomorrow, I believe. There's a couple of people, but there's still some room. And so I think if you get in, we'll be fine. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, so what is your advice right now, SeaGoat? Disconnect. And we're looking at foresight, right? So happy morning, happy Monday. So where we see this energy, you need to break up and separate with what does not serve. And Capricorn, this is mostly rated to you, right? This is you accepting grief, accepting separation, accepting loss, right? Accepting the truth about, happy Monday, and welcome. So this is you accepting loss, accepting the grief. This is your advice right now. Where do you need to be in terms of, let's say, your honesty? Where is it that you need to break up with who you once were in order to keep your eyes on where it is that you need to be? Because we've got farsighted here, right? Pay attention to the things that are important to ensure your wealth, right? Be farsighted, not nearsighted. Be focused on the outside. If it's not serving you, let it go. Go through the process of the heartbreak. It's in your hands. This is your advice. So your advice is not to accept the loss that someone else is giving you, but this is your advice to separate from the things that do not serve you, people, places, parts of yourself that you know are no longer serving you. Break up with it because you know your worth now. So now that you know your worth, the grief that you have tied to the things that you've had to let go of, where deep down you know that they did not serve, right? Those things didn't serve you. Those people didn't serve you. Those projects didn't serve you. You are aware of what serves you. So it's needing to separate and take the empowerment and the fact that anything you let go of leaves room for what it is that you're willing to bring in. That's what this Pluto direct energy is trying to say. You went through the retrograde. You had to understand and learn who it is that you are, right? You had to become comfortable with your truth, redefine your self-value, right? Redefine your confidence through a sense of self-worth. Redefine what you thought love was through a deep sense of self-worth. You were really tested to break through your old shell. And this redefinition says anything that you're holding on to has to go. Accept the grief of the end of what doesn't serve, right? So what is it you need to be thinking here? What is it you need to be feeling? So what I think is interesting is what is it you need to be thinking? We've got the moon coming here with gambling. So this is interesting because your feelings need to be in a space where, in general, these are not the happiest energies. So this is more about you putting yourself in a space of empowerment, because what is it you need to be feeling is we're going into the space of the moon, right? Going into your old subconscious, going into an introspective space with yourself, and no longer putting, especially because we have it with gamble, right? It's no longer putting yourself in a space where you're willing to risk for what you think is a reward, right? Really pay attention. For a lot of you, there are things in your life that are causing more destruction than you're being willing to admit, or you've been willing to admit to yourself, right? Be willing to admit to yourself that you cannot. This isn't a time to roll the dice and juggle and gamble and keep the things that do not work and keep the things or the people that do not serve. You need to let it go, right? You need to get very serious about letting go so you can move forward in the future, so your plan can play out further along the line. And then we have here, understand not to cry over spilled milk. Rich gain is here. The fruits of your labor come into fruition, but how can things come into you if you're holding on to what doesn't serve, right? You need to take the empowerment to let go and understand that there are still cups standing, and to focus on what you will lose is pretty much going to keep you stuck, let's just say, because that's what this time period has been wanting you to do. And you need to rise above your emotional body and go into a space. This is you. That is the King of Swords. You need to go into a space where you're focused on abundance. What is going to give you the best return? This is going to step you out of your comfort zone. It's going to step you out of, let's say, comfortable. Because, It's going to step you out of your comfort zone. It's going to step you out of your old version of what a comfortable relationship would look like. But you need to get more serious. And I know it's funny because I think I said this to you guys a couple of months ago, that I think it's funny when I tell you SeaGoats to get more serious. But it's not serious as in rigidity. It's not serious as in dragging yourself down. But it's the kind of seriousness that comes from self-worth, right? Not the ego identity that you guys tend to run to when you've allowed yourself to be pushed too far, right? When you've allowed yourself to be, let's say, too humbled or pushed aside and have your boundaries pushed, or people are creating too much around you, so you go into this space of rigidity to make sure they take you seriously. Not that serious. That's external serious. That's ego-based serious. Bit serious about yourself, so that you don't have to do that on the outside, right? The joy that you're looking for on the external, and again, we're looking at Venus, right? We're looking at the second house. The joy you need on the outside, the way in which you live a life where you are truly respected and valued, is because you start with yourself. Not, be so hard on yourself that you lose your sense of self-value. And then when the world reflects that back to you, you go into defense mode, right? It's saying that you need to take yourself seriously first from the inside, from a space of self-value, self-worth, and then have that reflect itself on the outside. You need to be focused on abundance. So if the relationship doesn't serve, if the person doesn't serve, the old idea of comfort, because remember, wealth, I said, is comfort, but it's a comfort that comes from a deep sense of self within, not the comforts that are keeping you stuck, right? So here we are looking for advice here. All right. Good. And then we're going to read from the coin. And then we have breaking up with anxiety, right? Getting out of anxiety, getting out of your head. And the turquoise. Okay, so 10 Sisters of Light. So we're going to actually start with, we have 2 oracles here about the advice of where it is that you guys need to be, how you need to utilize this energy. Gather your energies and go within to generate. Now, this is happening in the mind. This is an air energy. So remember, we saw the King of Swords, right? You need to get into a space where you rise above the emotional body and you get into a space of logic and rationality that says, I am focused on abundance. I am focused on having more. I am focused on creating more for myself and my life. I need to be focused on this, especially because many of you have been pushed in your second house. You've been tested in your second house, which is the wealth house, right? So the wealth, not the opposite of wealth. What is in alignment with wealth is abundance. And so in order to align with abundance, it's time to get here, right? It's time to go into that space where you start thinking clearly and you're willing to separate from any and all things that stand in the way of you aligning with that. Gather your energies and go within to regenerate. Let your actions match your inner rhythms. Rather than trying to force yourself to keep pace with external cues, we just had this conversation, commit to your own natural timing and pace. As you ground and connect to your center, you will realize your spiritual power to be at cause in any situation of concern. You have such goodness and light within you. Let go of shaming and blaming and embrace the beauty within. So the thing that I love about this card is it's about, I call it the game of accountability, right? So a lot of you could be dealing with situations that are unfair, dealing with difficult people. And the reason why is because of this kind of this heat that was let's say off the tail end of what was going on with the Aries full moon that was asking us all to take accountability in our relationships, okay? And for you, SeaGoat, this revealed to you different things about people. And sometimes taking accountability in our relationships means having the accountability to realize that this person doesn't serve, or this partnership doesn't serve, or these people are not actually on your team, or you're not speaking the same language, let's just say. And it's willing to separate and say that, again, for many of you, you've lost here, okay? So you've lost. So there are spilled cups that are in front of you, right? This is a deal that went wrong. That's a person that has revealed to themselves to not be trusted, a strategy that doesn't work, right? It's not about going into the game of shaming and blaming right now, because at the end of the day, you could indeed be 100% right, right? You can be on the side of the right fight. However, in this case, this is about you just letting go of whatever losses happened, cutting your losses and realigning. And it's realizing that you have what's going on within you, which is what's been happening with this retrograde, realigning with your sense of self-worth. So for a lot of you, if you created the bonds during the time when you didn't realize who you were versus where you are now, where you have a stronger sense of self, that bond can in fact be the thing that is being tested, right? It can be the thing that is being shaken, so that you have to understand, this is what I create when I don't know who I am. Now look at what it is that I want to create now that I'm aware of it, right? And it's then moving forward in that case, not taking the time to point the finger of account. The only accountability, like I've said to you guys many times with the serenity prayer, you guys know I love the serenity prayer, which is in the Christian Holy Bible, which is under, and I don't even know it word for word, but I know the energy of it. I have lipstick on my teeth, but I know the energy of it. And it's all about understanding what you can and cannot control, right? So putting yourself in a space where you have the courage, I guess, to change what you can control, and the strength to I guess put the effort in, and the wisdom to know the difference. For those of you who know it verbatim, if you can write it and let me know. Okay. So the turquoise lotus mother. So the divine brings precious healing to you now. Allow yourself to be lifted out of your struggle. Again, double confirmation on struggle. So this retrograde is going to give you the momentum that you need to power through, like the wisdom to know the difference, the wisdom to know the difference, the strength and the courage to make the move, right? An old pattern is finally in its death throes. Something that weighed heavily on you from your past, this can be one of the most testing times to allow something to go. Listen to me, SeaGoat. It's the same message, right? Allow something to go. It's in its death throes, which is why the game of but I didn't do this wrong, and this person is wrong, and this is it, and I understand. But at this point, it was created during a time when you didn't value yourself the way that you do now. And it is unfair, and it is difficult, or you aren't being met at the rate in which you should be met. But it's time to kind of recollect yourself, go back into that space where you guys know when to rise above your feelings and say, I am focused on abundance. I'm going to look at what is still standing, right? And I'm going to have the insight to separate from this current loss and take the empowerment and focus on the long term. So this can be one of the most testing times to allow something to go, yet do not doubt. Oh, excuse me, allow something to go just when it seems to be so demanding of your time, focus, and attention. Yet do not doubt. You have actually learned the lessons it has required of you. And now you're being blessed with an opportunity to receive healing. There are some lessons in our process of growth that cut right to the core of our being, that challenge us so deeply that even as we learn the lessons and practice the wisdom, we can still struggle to outgrow the grip of the pattern. No matter how hard we try, we might not feel that we are ever going to be able to completely release the challenge. And no matter how much we grow, there is still a thread of the past that hangs on. We need a rescue remedy if we are ever to be free of the clutches of the persistent pain, right? And in your case, especially because we see at the bottom of that deck, we've got separating yourself from anxiety, right? Eschewing complicated explanations, trying to make sense of the things that happen and why people did what it is that they did, and why this isn't working the way that you want it to. It's separating from that completely. And the thing is that at the bottom of the Kuan Yin deck, we have the power of the 10 sisters. I won't read this, but one of the biggest things with this is about integrating the wisdom that you have learned over, let's say, your life, right? The wisdom that you've learned over your life, and the skills and the abilities that came along with it. So in this case, it's saying to yourself that you're getting out of trying to make sense of everything, and you're gathering your energies and aligning with what it is that you know. So this is putting yourself in a position where it says, okay, I have to cut my losses here. I have to understand and I have to focus in on the development of self that I have created, newfound sense of self-confidence, newfound sense of self-worth, draw upon my skills, draw upon my abilities, and go from there, right? This is not necessarily the most fair energy. It's not. It's one of those experiences that says it happened, but it happened because it was karmically created from a different version of you. And at this point, the only thing that's going to get you out is this energy here. It's putting yourself in a space, and also, like we said, the advice, right? So these energies here, it's putting yourself in a space where you're saying, okay, this pattern from the past is in its final death throes, like we saw, right? This is over. This is ended. It's ended. And whatever practical, literal experiences came along with this, I have to take it. I have to accept it and put myself in a space where I'm not even giving, especially for those of you who are dealing with people in specific, dirty individuals, you know, it's putting yourself in an experience where you're separating, and you're taking the empowerment of separation and understanding that there is, let's say, growth when you align with the future, right? When you align with the fact that I'm going to be focused on my abundance, I'm going to take the empowerment to separate, accept the grief, put the swords in my own chest. I don't even care if you're going to take accountability. I don't even care to explain anymore. This is just, you know, it's a lingering energy that needs to come to a close, and it comes from you, right? Okay. Yeah, I look forward to seeing you again, Michelle. It's changed a lot. You know, the client circle has changed a lot. So I'm excited to pull you into the new portal and the profile and things like that, and the work we can do now. But yeah, so that's the thing about this energy. I want to see if I can get one more. Let's see if we can find one more moment for you, SeaGoat, and then we'll close out. Because this energy is interesting, to say the least. So we've looked at the advice, and let's see if we can find one more final message. And this is going to be mostly intense throughout the month of October, because we're in the first half of October. So as we go through the second half, this is the biggest thing that you're going to be tasked to do right now in this moment. And again, it's empowering. It's empowering to be the one to hold the swords, you know? All right, let me look at that. Got a lot of falling here. Recalibration. It's interesting because we had a similar energy come out for the week for you, SeaGoat. And this brings about clarity, a newfound sense of clarity. So I'll read this for you. Yeah, and it makes sense, because the biggest thing about this is you are changing, you're evolving, you are, I wanted to say something that doesn't make sense. I was going to say sophisticating, but it's you are aligning with a higher sense of self. So the version of you that just will not repeat the same situations, because you are not the same person. So all of this stuff that has tested your self-worth and your identity, and these childhood things that were buried, that were showing themselves in your external life over and over again, all of these things have come to their close. So what's happening in this moment of your life is this recalibration. It is refinement, like we said in the reel this week. That was the thing. It's a very similar energy. It's yeah. I mean, we're all children, right? But yeah, and I'm so sorry, guys, for the lipstick on my teeth. I only wear organic lipstick, so sometimes it just comes off, but that's fine. But yeah, so that's the thing about the recalibration. It's you are becoming a better version of you, right? But for you, this is not about anyone else. It can look good to other people, right? This next chapter can look very good to other people. You can look like you are, you know, really swimming in wealthy life, let's just say. But it's about a you thing. You know how we say all the time that in reality, our envy, is it really envy because of what you have, or is it envy because of who you are, right? And so that's the kind of shift that's happening for you. A lack of tolerance, right? A shift in your sense of patience, what it is that you won't do again, basically, right? So recalibration to a higher order of purpose is in progress. It is not always a smooth ride, as we know, but it is safe to be fearless as you gently hold space for new ways of thinking, living, and seeing to emerge. Okay, especially in business and love and in these things, it's like what you will no longer accept, conversations you will no longer entertain, partnerships, contracts, business relationships that no, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. You know what? I don't need it. And especially for you guys, when it comes to when you feel the most wounded, your ego goes into self-preservation and self-protection through status. You can use status as your defense mechanism, but it's when you have such a deep sense of self inside, your status speaks for itself. You don't need to use it, and so you won't be willing to compromise for what you think looks good on the outside, which includes a person, a business connection, contracts that you sign, places that you live. You don't need anyone's validation. And yes, you've now suffered the consequences or got the reveal of what has been born from when you created things when you needed that, right? And that's okay. We went through the process. Now here we are, right? You are encouraged to let go of opinions and beliefs that cannot support you in higher frequency states. You shall soon recognize a truth that cuts through any confusion and frees you to proceed with love, peace, and higher understanding, and most importantly, higher understanding of self and what it is that you can align with and create for the self. Okay, so I love this energy for you, my lovely sea goats. Again, for those of you, this is what I call the healing circle video because I'm in the healing circle 3 times a week, like I've said, which is in lives here. I also am in live for the people who are talking about connecting. This is how we work together when it comes to when you're booking with me as well. All of that can be found in the bio. Yeah, I like this energy. It's nice. It's nice. It's not easy. It's not. It's not an easy energy. It comes from a lot of acceptance. You have to accept and release. But yeah, so I love you so very, very much. Ciao.